Good morning, and welcome to the Donnie Glover Show. It's a beautiful morning. Mr. Fugett, how you feel this morning?
I'm feeling well this morning. I woke up with a smile on my face, and that always means that it's going to be a great day. How are you doing today?
Man, my daddy said, always thank the Lord.
Yes, indeed. Your
In
dad
all
knew what
thy
he's talking about.
ways, acknowledge him. Has the Lord been good to you, Mr. Fugett?
Always.
You know, when I first heard about you, you were running Baltimore County NAACP. I'm like, that's Reggie, brother. Oh my God, I got to get to meet this man.
Yeah, they called me the quiet man. A lot of people really didn't know that I was Reg's brother, and he was definitely an inspiration in my life and my go-to in rock. So I miss him really quite a bit, and sort of think to myself, say, what would Reg do?
So you shared the same dad,
We share the same mom.
same mom. So you both got the same kinds of butt whippings.
That's right. we 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 definitely did.
You know, I remember my big brother telling me about a whipping he got when he was a kid, man. It still brings tears to his eyes.
We need to bring back those good old days. I was thinking about that this morning, about how, we could keep children together. And I remember coming up as a child that if you did something wrong, a parent out in the street would just correct you and you'd get that spanking back then. And the word would get back home before you got home. And then you'd go and you'd get beat again.
You know, I just shared a meme on social media, and pardon my brash delivery so early in the morning, but it says, I think we can safely conclude that the ass whipping generation turned out significantly better than the timeout generation.
Well, the book's not complete on the timeout generation, and I never
Oh,
like to write anybody off. So so
oh,
so there's always a way to improve, and I think if they look to us, that they hopefully will improve and become better citizens and better people in this world.
oh, now it's called abuse.
Yes, it is.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Fugit. I don't know about your mama, but call the police on my mama. Call the police. Your stuff will be at the front door. And when the police come, she'll say, and don't bring them back.
Or you might not be around to talk to them when the police show up.
Frying pan. You know, the good book say you spare the rod, you spoil a child.
That's what it says.
So, political, politically speaking, where you live at, I call it Baltimore's Prince George's County. Now, let me just tell you, I've had many jokes about our beautiful Baltimore County brothers and sisters. All of my family lives out there, but let me just caution you. I talk about Vandalstown, Hoodlawn, and on my arm and my leg mills all the time. And sorry for that interruption. But Baltimore County, I love Randallstown, I love Woodlawn, Owens Mills, Pikesville. That's the blackest part of Baltimore County, Northwest, and it's has more upwardly mobile black people than any other part of Greater Baltimore.
Right. Yeah, the growth of the black population in the western part of the county has been significant over the years. I remember in 2000 when I was president of the Baltimore County NAACP, and we fought to create a precinct that had a majority black population. And we created the fourth district. And once we did that, there's been a black person elected ever since.
So that brings us straight on to where we got to go next. Politically, we have been dominant. I mean, other than Jay Jalisi, I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. But we've been pretty dominant out the Liberty Road corridor.
That is
But the
correct.
Reisterstown, The Reisterstown Road corridor represents the Wild West, the new frontier. And so as a result of this census and redistricting, you have two, what, 50-50 districts versus one 75% black district.
No, the reality is that the second district is 40% black today and 45% white. So you still only have one black majority district in Baltimore County.
So you're in the toss-up district.
That is correct.
And so
That
you and Izzy Patoka, you got a championship fight in 90 days.
that is correct. It is a sprint to the finish line. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Tony Fugett, and I'm running for Baltimore County Council in the second district. And I'm looking to make history with your help and become the first black person elected to the second councilmatic district in the history. Let me repeat that, in the history of this county.
So look, I'm gonna give you a chance to share your platform. Would you like to
I
tell
would
people?
love, well, let me talk a little bit about myself at first, okay, and say who I am. And I was born and raised in Baltimore. And I guess I was sort of leader very early age. I was the captain of my high school basketball team in the 11th and 12th grade, and at that time that was kind of unheard of that one would be captain in the 11th grade. So I demonstrated leadership capabilities back in high school, and later on through college, homegrown, went to Cardinal Gibbons High School, graduated from the University of Baltimore, where I later, by the way, was on the foundation of University of Baltimore board, and joined IBM, cut my management teeth there, was a manager of people of all colors, was rated one of the highest outstanding managers in the federal division at the time. Went on when my brother took ill, we talked about Reg earlier, and went with TLC Beatrice, where I worked with the CEO, who was my brother at the time, and literally was traveling the universe of Europe, working with companies that represented the portfolio of companies of TLC Beatrice Foods. I then came back to the States and thought I was retired when we sold the companies. And I have four girls, by the way, and a wife, a lovely wife of 40 years, 47 years. And you can never retire. I thought I was retired, but you couldn't retire.
Not with four daughters.
I have four girls, so you can't retire. And then I found a position with the state of Maryland, and I am a director in the Department of Budget and Management. And I report to the secretary, who reports to the governor. So I'm two steps away from the governor, and I've been doing that for over a dozen years. So I've done that. And then I've also had this social side of me where I've given back to the community. And oh, by the way, I can go back to when I was a scout, Boy Scout,
What
and
church?
and the St. Edward's Church. The troop was in 145, Poplar Grove in Lafayette, and we used to go camping. I actually went camping in Lincoln Park, if you can remember
Man, somebody just told me, a guy from Poly, Larry Crew, told me that some of the young people they're working with are going camping in Lincoln Park. Now I said, whoever planned that trip was not from Baltimore.
Well, I did. I went camping. But even back then, I was a scout lifeguard, and I actually went to Carver High School and taught Cub Scouts how to swim. So I've always, that was the start of my giving back to the community. So I've done that through my entire days. I was actually on a task force, the Kellogg's Task Force Initiative for African American Males, that Andrew Young headed. And we created the Village Foundation that supported African American entities nationwide. I was a part of that effort. So my community service continued. I was on the national board of the NAACP. I was the president of the Baltimore County branch of the NAACP, where I negotiated an affordable housing agreement with the county, and have had other things that I've negotiated with the county, and along, if you would, running relationship with the county. So I looked at the universe and I said, how can I best serve? And it came to me that maybe I'm better on the inside. That if I had that seat at the table, that we could do the right thing for all the people of Baltimore County. And there was a redistricting effort that just went on, and I was a plaintiff, a named individual plaintiff in that case. And we got an injunction that actually made the county council change the original plan that they submitted and approved, which we had been pleading with them to change, to
Now,
say that it,
what was wrong with the original plan from your perspective?
well, that there was no minority majority black district other than the fourth district. And they packed all of the black folks
Oh,
into District 4, 75% were packed.
you mean in a county where African Americans comprise 30%, and then as it relates to the tax base, I'm wondering if African Americans are paying a lot more. You can't get elected representation in Baltimore County in 2022. Are you telling me that?
The original plan said just that. Absolutely.
How ungrateful a people is that?
It's called promoting self interest versus the interests of the people. And
But
that's
if it
problematic.
were not for African Americans, would Baltimore County be as well off as it is?
Well, I always believe that in diversity, there's strength.
What does that mean?
That means,
I'm confused. I'm from North Avenue. What you saying? You on my side or not?
I'm saying that everyone brings a talent to the party. So all races and people bring talents to the party. And when you overlook one, then you're weaker than you are if you bring everybody to the party and give everybody a seat at the table.
They've been overlooking us for 300 years, Mr. Fugett. I don't know. It seems to be behavior. It's no longer a mistake.
Well, it is by design, but a gentleman by the name of Dunbar Brooks did a paper that resonates with me all the time, and he called it.
Who was Dunbar Brooks?
Dunbar Brooks was a demographer. He headed the school board at one point, and
Baltimore City or Baltimore County?
in Baltimore County. And,
Oh, that Dunbar
and
Brooks.
unfortunately, we lost the brother to an illness, a long illness. And he wrote this paper, and the paper was called The Browning of Baltimore County. And he actually predicted in 2021 with the redistricting effort that a second black district could be created in Baltimore County.
Now, when you say black, are you saying, you know, is it un, is it like my book? Is it unapologetically black, or is it just people who are black on the weekends?
No, what I'm saying is that it is over
Because black
50.
doesn't mean the same thing. I mean, some people don't identify with North Avenue, Morgan, Coppin, Owella.
Well, this is true. But it would be, as the Census Bureau calls it would be over 50% black. And all that does, believe it or not, is levels the playing field so that you have an equal opportunity to represent the community. And that's all we've been asking for, a level playing field. I mean, it seems like we've been battling and going uphill all our lives. And if we could just level the playing field, you know how they say when we grew up, you got to be twice as good. You remember hearing that when you came
My
by? I know
daddy
my
said,
parents said you
yeah,
got to be twice as good.
that's what we grew up on.
Exactly. So what we're talking about
But
here
these
is
kids
leveling
today
the
are
playing
asking
field.
the question, why? The generation today is not accepting that. They are tired of the buck dancing and handkerchief heading. They're just not acquiescing.
Right. So again, My thought is the way that you attack this is you attack it on the inside. So it's we get people elected to the council who will represent the interest of all communities and come from our perspective, which means that our interests will be protected. And that's why I saw this lack of leadership on the current council, okay, and that I decided to run for Baltimore County Council in the second district, where we would be making history in electing the first Black person to the second district in Baltimore County.
What do you think your brother would say, Reginald F. Lewis, if he were here to advise you right now?
He would say, keep on going no matter what.
Yeah, he did. Keep going.
Keep going.
Judge Maybelline said it like this. She said, if you keep walking, you can make it through anything. And
That's right.
I stood there and thought about it. If you do keep walking, you're going to keep moving.
Right.
My daddy said it like this. It's hard to hit a moving target.
Well, I tell you, I played basketball, so I had a few moves back in the day, so I know how to do that.
I'm going to throw
But
you the ball. Oh, okay, go ahead.
but you talked about platform. Okay, I've been out and I've been meeting folks in the community, and I've been on what I would call my listening tour to say, okay, what are the needs of our communities and the communities a whole that comprise the second district. And I mentioned earlier this redistricting effort. And what they did when they reconstituted the district is they brought in, if you would, from the city line on Liberty Road out to just beyond the Beltway into the second district. And when I talk to the folks in that area, they say it's a food desert, meaning there are no grocery stores near them on the Liberty Road corridor. They've all closed up.
They closed down 3 supermarkets, Food Lion, Shoppers, and Giant. And that Giant had been out there since Harriet Tubman.
Exactly. They're all
I'm just joking.
closed.
I'm just joking.
They're all closed. And then I took a wider look at the
Walmart
second
got rid of that.
councilmatic district. And do you know where the only major grocery store is in the second district?
Wegmans, Owens Mills.
In four. That's in the fourth. That's not in the second. The giant that's up there is now in the fourth. It's not in the second.
The Gucci Giant.
The only one is in Pikesville. The giant in Pikesville is the only grocery store in the second district.
So, one thing, Mr. Fugett, when we move in many instances from Baltimore City to Baltimore County, we did it because we wanted better schools, better education. We wanted bunny rabbit deers and foxes instead of people standing on your corner, rats and roaches, and I get it. But when we moved out there, were we as politically astute and politically as active as we needed to be? I mean, honestly, it's an ugly county in the sense that you're all the way in Northwest, but your county seat is all the way in Towson. And how many people, after a hard day's work, are going to go around from Randallstown around the Beltway to Towson to sit in on a county council meeting that very few black people are at anyway?
Well, the county does a great job of marketing. And what they do is sort of ride under the cover of things. And what they want to do is point you at Baltimore City and say, look how much better you have it than being in Baltimore City. You don't have the level of crime. You don't have other things. You've moved on up to the east side with the D-Lot apartment in the sky. You're doing extremely well. But you mentioned education. When they rushed to judgment on this redistricting plan, I Googled my address. I've got an elementary school in my district. My junior high school and high school are zoned in the fourth district. So that means, we have an elected school board. So the person who gets voted in the fourth district is representing my junior school and my high school. And that's going to be universe across the district except for one area. And guess what that area is?
Carmel.
Pikesville. Everybody else is going to have a divided, if you would, school district in terms of their representation. And
So
oh, by the way, their goal was they said we wanted to keep that all together and we didn't want that to happen. But it seemed like it happened in District 2. Where was the leadership on that? So basically, a part of my platform is to bring leadership that matters to Baltimore County's second district. All the businesses were carved out of the upper half of the second district and put into four. If you go up Ricerstown Road to the left of Ricerstown Road, where all the car dealerships and businesses are, that's four. I mean, how are the community associations going to go and ask them for money for athletics when they say, well, no, we're in four, we're going to support four. It's kind of interesting, and it turns out that the chairman of the council was from four, so it has its
the
power.
guy you're running against did
No,
this?
no, 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 no. The chairman of the council
Oh, Julian.
is in four, and four has prospered. Okay, and it's interesting. They rotate tours where you have an opportunity to be chair of the council, and in your first term, usually you serve as the chair, which means you can bring things to your district and you have more influence for your district. And guess who did not become chair of the council for their first tour?
Julian didn't.
Julian became, yes, he did.
His first tour, he became
Yes,
chair?
he did. Absolutely.
Okay, you're losing me. Are you saying Izzy Patoka did not become chair?
He's never been chair.
Why?
That's what I'd like to know.
Did they discriminate against him?
I don't know. I just know he hasn't been. And it's the first time in 20 years or more that that's ever happened.
So you're saying he's an ineffective leader?
I mean, if your peers don't elect you to lead, what does that say?
I'm hearing discrimination.
I mean, I'm hearing something.
So black people aren't the only ones that get discriminated against.
Well, or maybe they're not a strong leader. But in any event, I'm bringing leadership. I'm the future of Baltimore County. I'm tomorrow. You're voting for tomorrow when
How
you
can
vote
people
Tony
support your
Fugett.
campaign, Mr. Fugett?
Excuse me?
How can people support your campaign?
Basically, today we're looking for donations and we're looking more importantly for volunteers. My mom, Carolyn Fugett, she's 96 years old. I remember when she was out in Poplar Grove and Mosier with my baby sister in the stroller, and we were going to make Perrin Mitchell a congressman. And we went door to door and we went knocking and we made that happen. We did it for Agnes Welsh when she was running for the county council. We were knocking door to door and we made that happen. And that was because of the volunteers who cared enough about making history and making a difference in the community.
I'm gonna tell you one
So,
thing, Mr. Fugett. I have a lot of hope and optimism with you because quite often, too often, when I see black people get into politics, they're broke. And you don't seem to have that challenge. You know what I mean? If politics is the first time you've gotten money, I'm a little afraid of you.
they
But
used to say
you've
don't
been
elect.
around money.
They say don't elect a poor president. That could be
You
that could be
damn
a problem.
right. He's suspect.
Right.
A pack of oodles and noodles will get a wicked decision, you know?
Yep. That's right. That's right. So yes, money, been around money. Well, Reg, I mean, Reg did the Beatrice deal. That was $1 billion leverage buyout.
You traveled the
So
world in a
I've been
private jet.
I've been in the corporate jet. Yes, I've been there and I've done that.
Do,
So
do they have their own flight attendant on a private jet?
yes.
Don't pay me no mind, Mr.
Funny story about that. Funny story about that. Reg and I are going down, it's vacation time, we go to Jamaica. Okay. And we get off the plane and they're shocked to see two brothers walking off a private jet. So we walk down, and the first thing they ask Reg is, "Do you have any guns?" Okay. And Reg said, "No. Do we need them?" So, so you can imagine over the years the looks that one gets. I mean, hey, when I was with IBM back in the day, and I was wearing the suit, the white shirt, and the tie, this white guy walks up to me and looks me up and down like I was from another planet. So
That's
yes,
because he hadn't been exposed to anything but old stuff, old material, outdated
exactly,
material, fictitious material. See, he
exactly.
didn't know he didn't know his own history.
That's right.
If
But
he
but
knew
but
his own history, he would have more respect and reverence
that
for a
that is
black man,
correct.
especially in America.
That's right. I mean, our family goes all the way back to the American Revolutionary War. My dad was the president of the Sons of the American Revolution for the Baltimore Edgar Howard chapter, as was my
Which
brother
side
Jim.
did he fight on? Which side did your peoples fight on?
We were fighting on the U.S. side of things.
Because there were blacks fighting on the other side. They were
I
promised
know, but
freedom.
we were part of the Son. If you're part of the Sons of the American Revolution, you were fighting for America, and we fought for America. And we can go all the way back to the American Revolutionary War.
Mr. Figure, we got to go now, but how can people get in touch with you and your campaign?
Okay, it's votetonyfugett.com, and you can click in and say that you want to volunteer. We get all the emails and we can respond to that. That is the easiest and fastest way to get a hold of us and to donate.
Now, again, Mr. Tony Fugett, you're running for Baltimore
I'm run,
County.
I'm running for Baltimore County Council in the second district. Your future depends on it. VoteTonyFugett.com.
I just got one last question to ask you. About to bring up Kristal Hansley. How can I get a museum named after me? I mean, your brother got a museum named after him. I think there should be the Doni Glover Museum.
Well, Donnie, it's interesting. My brother created
And
a
I don't want it
foundation.
downtown. I want it on North Avenue. I want it right down North Avenue.
Well, you got the Black Wax Museum
Nah,
on North.
nah, nah.
No,
My
no.
own museum.
I mean,
Okay, I'm Donnie
we can
Glover.
get
I
you
ain't Dr. Martin.
we can get your image in there. How about that?
No, 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 no. Y'all got me twisted. It's the Donnie Glover Black Wall. Okay, we got to talk about this, Mr. Fugue. But I
I'm
need you to
hoping
get
that we
elected
continue the
first.
dialogue. Let's get elected and continue that dialogue. And I just want to say, Donnie, thank you for having me, and thank for all the good work that you do and giving a perspective that most people don't get about what's going on in our community. I like most people really don't know what happened with the redistricting effort, and only people like you are standing up and talking about it. And for that, I love you and I appreciate it.
Well, my mom is out there in your neck of the woods. She's gone, long gone, but Garrison Forest,
Mhm.
uh, very special place. It will forever be.
In the district, yes,
Yes, sir.
and we'll keep it that way.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fugger, you have a beautiful day. We're going to speak with Kristal Hansley now. Thank you again. Good morning, Kristal. Thank you for your patience. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Doni.
Good, good. Now, you're the CEO. Forgive me, forgive my manners.
It's okay. It's
This,
early. I'll work with you.
it's no excuses. You're an early morning person?
I am. I have to be.
Why?
Small business. As an executive, I'm CEO and founder of We Solar, Baltimore based community solar firm. You have to be an early morning person to be competitive, especially being a smaller entity, and the game with a lot of big players, large players.
Where you from, Miss Hansley?
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
Yes, originally. I'm a Brooklynite. Yep.
My family lives
Bed-Stuy.
near Brookdale Hospital,
Oh
East
yeah,
East
Brookdale's right
94th
there.
Street.
Mm, yeah.
You, you know, Brooklyn has a black entrepreneurial history that not many people are aware of.
I
I
know.
think it's 158 Buffalo Avenue in between Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights
Mm.
around 1835. It's in my book, by the way, I Am Black Wall Street. We talk about this man named James Weeks,
Ah,
and
yes.
he founded Weeksville, and today you have the Weeksville Heritage Center.
Ah,
You had an independent black community almost 100 years before Tulsa's Black Wall Street.
wow. Oh, listen.
Weeksville. Oh
Yes,
my God, I love Brooklyn. The
yes.
only thing I don't understand why y'all walk so fast. My aunt would come here and it's like slow down. It's not New York, just slow down.
I think it's just the density of the population. You have no choice. You have to keep up with the pace.
And Brooklyn reminds me of Baltimore somewhat.
I would say so. This is my new home. I moved here about 3 years ago, um, bringing community solar initially to West Baltimore. And yeah, I like the similarities for sure. The row homes and even some of the brownstones
The
on
attitude, the attitude.
the definitely the attitude, the grit, for sure.
So, a sister with We Solar. Tell me, how in the world did you get into and We Solar? You know, when I was first thinking, I was like, is this French OUI We Solar? How did all of this come about? Tell me about it.
Yes, thank you for the question. I'm a graduate of Howard University. I studied political science, and I spent about 10 years in government and working on the Hill, in the Senate, and also in the House of Representatives. And my latest stunt was in the district office of Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. And the last election before this administration, we lost a lot of seats. Obviously, we didn't win the White House administration on the Democratic side, and so there just wasn't a lot of upward mobility for staffers. And Maryland was passing a lot of sweeping clean energy initiatives, and I thought that that was a great time to pivot and leverage my environmental health policy background and get in on the front end of the new emerging industry, this new vertical called community solar, which is very interesting in a sense where you do not have to put panels on your roof to actually receive solar credits. You can participate in a solar farm, and essentially, that farm is as if those panels are on your roof, opening up the market by 80%. And so, only 20% of Americans actually have access to rooftop solar. And those barriers that exist, meaning you have to be a homeowner, you have to have a really good credit, and obviously signing those long-term contracts, 20, 25 years on the panels and the system itself, that's a lot of scary. It's really scary and off-putting for new people who are just, just trying to get information or considering it, those barriers and the contract terms turn a lot of people away. And so this idea of community solar, where the terms are month to month, there's no catch. You participate in a solar farm that's developed within your local utility, and you get that solar credit directly on your energy bill. That inclusiveness and accessibility for um, communities that were traditionally left out of the green space. That's what We Solar is about. And so leveraging my policy background and getting in on the ground floor with another Maryland startup, and then 2 years ago starting my own endeavor. That's essentially the history and birth of We Solar. And today,
I got a bunch of questions.
oh yeah, and we have a big announcement about our Earth Day partnership, and yeah, that's why I'm here to just let the community know and let your audience know that there's multiple ways now that the green movement and the solar revolution is taking over on the ground, and entities like We Solar is making sure that communities are brought to the table.
Okay, we got a lot to unpack there. First of all, so you're going to take over the electric business. And they don't know that the takeover is here. By the time they look up, you already down the road and started your own.
Yes, the takeover has begun, for sure. Hashtag.
Okay, here's my first question. And this is not what you were expecting. So
okay.
I'm sorry to whoever thought this was a good idea. Why didn't you just switch parties?
I mean, as far as
if it looked like the Democrats was fizzling out, or did you consider looking at the other side of the aisle since they are more business friendly?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. What's really interesting is that my vertical, community solar, is actually bipartisan. So equally amount of the rural areas of the state, Eastern Shore, those rural farmers, very, very red district voted for community solar because that is a new revenue stream where you're able to get that land lease option and generation of the solar energy versus actually minding the land in an agricultural traditional sense. And a lot of farmers were struggling to maintain that generational wealth and property. And so this was a new way that they thought, hey, it's a no-brainer for us to allow developers and solar to be developed on our land. And so this policy actually bridged and it has bipartisan support at the federal level as well as the state level.
Okay, then, so you're in Maryland?
I'm in Maryland. I'm based out of Baltimore, Maryland.
Has the Hogan administration been helpful?
Yeah, I would say when I launched, his Department of Commerce tweeted my success and obviously passed and signed the Community Solar Act of 2015. And so, yes, I mean, this new vertical of solar, this virtual solar credit, right? And just signing up to a solar farm has bipartisan support, and the governor, signed off on the legislation, which allows, a lot of new players into the space on the generation side that just previously didn't exist.
Okay, now just like with the marijuana, they kind of want to give us second tier, they don't want to treat us right. I still need to know some more things about the solar. One thing I didn't hear you mention is whether or not you need a flat roof. Like here in the city, many of us have flat or tilted roofs when historically, when the solar thing first came out, it was, more of a 45-degree angle.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Can a flat house get it?
Yes. I think you don't even need a house to get it. You don't need a house to get community solar. And so we build solar farms that directly tie into the grid, the BG&E grid, the Pepco grid. And our business model allows anyone who wants to have solar get a virtual credit through We Solar that's attached to our solar farm. So you don't need to put an actual system on your roof anymore. You can literally go onto our website. We are operating in 9 states. obviously including Maryland and DC, and you're able to get a solar credit by just signing up to one of our farms. So you don't need to put a panel on your roof if that's traditionally not something that you were able to do because of maybe your roof or the credit situation, or you don't want to sign a long, you may be thinking about selling your home in 5 years and you don't want to commit to a system that, the cost economics is over a span of 10, 15 years. And in order for you to really see the savings, you don't want to commit to that, but you want to receive economic savings from solar. Community solar is another viable option. So it's just another option to traditional rooftop solar.
Kristal, this man came promoting solar in my neighborhood, and my problem, Kristal, is that he lived all the way in Columbia, and I'm saying to him, put it in your backyard. Don't try to put it in mine, and don't try to shove it down people's throats. Your thought?
Okay. So was he trying to put the system on your roof? Was he building, or was
he wanted to suggest it for the community that he doesn't even live in? I'm talking about black people. You have to excuse me for a second. We have a delivery. So
Okay.
I tell you what, I need to know about federal certification, because it sounds like you can do well with a federal contract. Is this a part of 8A and federal contracts?
No, this is a state initiative. At the moment, we're not a federal contractor at the moment. We are engaged with some GSA representatives to figure out how we can participate in some of the procurement and attending some of the workshops for small Black-owned businesses in the renewable energy space. But right now, we're just participating in the Maryland, and there's about 22 other states that have this new vertical community solar, with Arizona being the latest, New Mexico, being the latest state to enact a pilot program with community solar. So no, it's mostly state initiatives at the moment. So yeah, it's not a federal program, because as you know, each state and each utility is set up different. Some states have a deregulated market, community choice markets, and that's really going into the weeds. But yeah, at a high level, it's state by state.
Where is the best place in the country to do solar?
I would say the best place in the country to do solar is if you're able to make the economics work. That's the thing about community solar is, it opens the market to on the generation side. So if you are a Black farmer, or you have land and you may not have the supply to actually physically keep that land up, putting solar and allowing that type of revenue model, or introducing that revenue model, you might be able to save your farm. So anywhere where you have obviously power lines, right, you have to be able to feed and get the interconnection to the grid, and you have the sun there, and it's that easy. I say anywhere that's close to power lines and you can source the sun.
Are you moving to Africa?
That would be the goal, right? To have the largest Black-owned solar farm business, and create the green jobs, and also the resiliency of having independent grids, like a solar system with battery storage, to really give that infrastructure to communities who are still trying to figure that out and have basic electric needs met. Right now, the energy burden for low-income families, and 70% of energy burden is an issue in the Black community here. And one of our goals is to address the energy burden through this new model. The average savings is 25% off for our customers a month for 20 years. And the barrier to receiving those savings is just simply understanding that these options exist and it's not a scam. That has always plagued the community, misinformation, someone promising you savings and then don't receive it or may only receive it for a short term. But this new model of community solar it's also a best kept secret and also has been only really promoted in a lot of like neighborhoods or sectors that already have the information. And so we're breaking that barrier and making sure that our community understands that, you know, there's ways in which you can be a part of this transition to renewables and also receive the savings and learn how to develop and get access to those jobs as well. And we're on the front lines making sure that those opportunities are brought to our community.
Prince George's County, is that on your radar?
Yes, we have farms in Prince George's County. On the DC side, yeah, we have slots available in Pepco at the moment. So if someone and anyone's listening to this, if you have a Pepco utility bill, if you have a Baltimore gas electric utility bill, you're able to receive this economic resilience through community solar. You are able to receive solar. Like anyone that's listening, they need to know that solar is available to everyone now. If you do not have a home, if you're an apartment dweller, you can sign up to a solar farm and get that credit through that local solar farm that's powering your local grid. And so this new model allows a lot of millennials, Generation Z, even empty nesters who are downsizing into condos who would love to participate in renewable energy and receive solar. You can now do that by just signing up to one of your local solar farms.
You know, it's Hansley in New York and Baltimore and DC. I often hear in the African American community complaints about gentrification.
Yeah.
Is it gentrification when we decided to move?
Mm.
I
Well,
thought that's called abandonment. Because like now we complaining, oh, Brooklyn's not the same, Baltimore's not the same. I have never
DC,
seen people who are not members of the majority demographic here in Sandtown coming here and purchasing dope in front of the police. Oh my God, I've never seen that before. Okay, I digress. But it's changing. The landscape is changing. It's a new day. What happened?
yeah. Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I'm from all of those places, right? I lived in Brooklyn, that's, you know, heavily gentrified. I went to school and studied and lived in DC, which used to be Chocolate City, and at the time, the median population always was raised above 50%. And now, you know, I'm located and based out of Baltimore, where the Black population hovers around 60%, and we are noticing that number is declining, and you know the Black people are selling their homes, and you know traditional families are moving out, and I think that the community, you know, should understand that this is really good real estate, right? And I wished a lot of my family members did not sell their brownstones in Brooklyn, and you know maintain that generational wealth. And so yes, it is gentrification, and I think the biggest issue is information, and also the systematic issues of like redlining and Jim Crow that took place in the 60s and in the 70s. We're still experiencing the impact of that. And so now after the 80s and the crack epidemic, and also the tech boom, and also being marginalized from those growing industries and being faced with double recessions, as Generation X, you know, start taking care of their parents, and millennials now are the top population in the workforce. We just have a lot on our plates, and understanding that, you know, we're in survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you can't really think about the future as much as you would like, not as if you would not want to maintain that, but you have to make sure that you're safe and you have food and you have a home over your immediate needs take priority. And I think it's more of a larger discussion around survival and getting past the survival mode and the thrive mode, and introducing economic resilience in industries. Green jobs, the average green job is $50,000, right? And so as these new emerging markets are becoming more of a play in our overall economy, I would call it the fourth industrial revolution. We want to make sure that our community is a part of that next industrial revolution. We wasn't a part of the tech boom and the numbers. If we were, we would have that resiliency and maintain some of that economic wealth and been able to pass on the generational wealth and save our homes. And so making sure we have a strong economic base and a participant of an emerging market that's going to be here for the next, decades and beyond. I think that's one of the solutions to maintaining some of our wealth and our property.
As long as you black and in America, Ms. Hansley, we're going to have to fight. Because we made progress before. We mentioned Tulsa. We did all of the right things.
Yeah.
And the rotten people on horseback still came in the middle of the night looking for us like we were Harriet Tubman or Malcolm X with a $40,000 price on our head. So even when we've done the right thing, people still don't play fair with us.
No.
I wanted to ask you about legacy.
Yeah.
Are you the first woman CEO in your family?
Yes, I'm the first high school graduate, college graduate, business owner in my family.
So what will this mean to future generations in your family?
It means a lot. They're very proud, and the endurance and their lessons that I was taught growing up. I was raised by my grandparents, and those lessons of resiliency that they had, growing up in the 20s and going through the Great Depression and World War II. That's the legacy. And to make it, the fight still continues, right? My job is very, very difficult. But what gives me the energy, no pun intended, to keep moving forward and creating those opportunities is exactly the previous question. It's the why. If you're a part of an industry that creates a strong economic base, like you talked about, like the Black Wall Street, and making sure that the community have access to that, and it's put in a cultural lens that they understand. That's one entry point. That's one solution. It doesn't fix the whole conglomerate of things and systematic oppression and racism, but it's one way in which we're able to fight and have the resiliency that we need.
Kristal, have you started the club yet?
Yes, so we Solar Club, right? Join us. Join the movement.
I was thinking the Black Woman CEO Club.
Oh man, I think
other Black women?
Yeah, I think that club already exists, and I will, there's so
in solar energy.
Yeah, there's a few of us. You have Solar Stewards, but Dana, Julo, in North Carolina, myself. I can count on one hand, but
that's why you want to start the club. It's exclusive now. I think back, how many of us knew that Madam C.J. Walker, as bad as she was, she had a mentor named Annie Malone.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta link elbows.
Oh yeah. When I launched Juneteenth of 2020, the established, African American women, whether they had owned their own firms or had very senior levels in other solar firms, they reached out, right? And immediately I had that that warmth and expertise from the Black women. I would not be here if it wasn't for Black women that had already paved the way and rose the ranks of the established firms that said, we see you, we understand what you're doing. Here's, here's some advice, here's other mentors you can call. And so the birth energies and the Bob Wallace and the Gilbert Campbells and in DC, and they all was there when just like, yes, there is a lot of prominent African Americans in this space. And being one of, I guess, the new kids on the block, it is a community. It's a community that is very welcoming. And also BOSS is Black owners of solar services. Any African American that's interested in the solar industry, reach out to BOSS. Join AID, African Americans of Blacks in Energy, which is the African American Energy Trade Group. Whether you're renewable or traditional energy, that's also another community that's very prominent and on both sides, whether it's traditional utility, vertically integrated models, or the new renewable energy space. I would look to those communities, and it's we're here, we're in there. So yeah.
Pardon my ignorance, but is there a cryptocurrency yet?
Very interesting. That's the stuff that keep me up at night. That is the next thing for my own endeavors, right? Web 3.0, crypto, the metaverse. That is the next wave, and get in now, right? As we talk about gentrification, this idea of virtual land and real assets. I think that is not something to be overlooked or think that it's a ploy. It's very much real. There's digital economies that's being created. South Korea is the first government to really take it seriously. And when we look at what China did in the solar industry and why they own 90% of the industry, is because they came in first, right? They own most of the crystals and the particles that make up the solar panels, because the government really took the industry very seriously and invested heavily. And so for entrepreneurs and people, whether we have the federal or state support in those industries, pick up a book, learn about it, join it, start clubs, definitely get into the Web 3.0, the cryptocurrency, because there are economies that's using that decentralized model as, for resiliency, right? Like look at what happened with Venezuela, and they, didn't have a choice, and now they have to use cryptocurrency to hold up their economy. Miami is one of the latest municipalities to issue their own city version of cryptocurrency. And so, yeah, there's definitely models.
So you gonna launch your own We Solar currency, right?
Yeah, that is definitely on the horizon. I would love to do that. I have to build these solar farms first.
Well, maybe we have a show on Friday nights, Black USA Crypto News,
Okay.
from the East Bay area. I got one last question, and I know
Okay.
we're going over. I have some land in Tanzania. I have some land in East Africa, and this idea of solar panels intrigues me.
Yes.
How can I build solar? Because I'm seeing the Chinese all up in Africa, and I'm wondering where the African Americans are, because we look more African than the Chinese, with all due respect. I was in Tanzania, and I'm like, why do you have other people over here doing for you what you can and should be doing for yourself? I don't understand how De Beers is all cozy in South Africa, and I'm seeing Black people in Soweto with no shoes. It's not making sense. I'm sorry, I'm getting political. I'm sorry.
No, I understand the frustration and the questioning, right? It's definitely, I would say, it's all manipulated, right? Like a lot of things that we see is man-made, and so yeah, you have industries and that's protecting their markets and their shares and their proprietary information, and so that's it, right? I've been contacted by government officials throughout the African diaspora, one elected official in Liberia with ties to the Liberian airport. It's like, Kristal, how can we get the Liberia airport solar? And I'm like, wow, this is okay. So Little We Solar in Baltimore has, is on the radar of sovereign nations and in diaspora and local leaders and community stakeholders that want to build this resiliency in their neighborhoods. They're doing the work, they're doing the research, they're lobbying their local governments to build the infrastructure that can support the generation side of solar, right? But you need to be able to feed that into an existent structure. That is the number one thing. Even when you have the ability to raise the money and do the development, where is it going to go if you don't have the power lines and the interconnection that feed back into the grid? You have to create that.
And when they do build one, I want them to start their own social media so I can stop getting blocked on social media.
We do need that. We need
want our own planet with no censorship. I'm tired of people saying that I'm too pro-black. I mean, damn, that's the name of my book.
Well,
unapologetically black.
I think, Web 3.0 and the consensus around decentralization, decentralizing information, decentralizing monetary systems, decentralizing power existence structures, the financial model, which essentially puts all the power to the people, right? And so when you have blockchain technology that's being used to create platforms and social media platforms that's powered by a decentralized model, right? That would be I project the way everything is in the next 10, 15 years, right? Like, we didn't see ourselves in this social media I would say era, right? Where, it's so prominent and we one with it in a sense, right? We now have our cell phones everywhere. Growing up, there was pagers, but if you were lucky and fortunate to have a pager, but now with our cell phones being always in close proximity to us, and the social media comes along with that, I do see the Web 3.0 and digital currency and the blockchain being the grandson of the AI and of the social media era. Like, the blockchain and cryptocurrency it's the grandson, the metaverse of where we are today.
I lied. I got one more question. I hear you throw a plug in for the Howard University Bisons. Where are HBCUs in the future of solar? And with all due respect to your Morehouses and Howards and Spelmans, the Aggies seem to come to mind. And I'm not talking about their sports, but the agricultural and technical. I think FAMU might come to mind. Where are HBCUs in this space, and when the hell are they gonna bring the damn tuitions down? Because 40,000, we need to make it a little more accessible.
Yeah, I do see initiatives. Academia, I would say, is a very parallel industry to governments, right? Where it's very structured and ruled by tradition. HBCUs is rooted in tradition, and typically when you have those older archaic systems, and then you contrast that to the private sector, which is more nimble and able to move at a faster rate, there's a huge gap as far as what academia is doing and how the speed of the private sector. And so, firms like We Solar is bridging that, us saying, hey, reaching out and having interns and apprentices and ambassadors that obviously need the technical, the engineering, the financial modeling, the background to do these things. But and studying it from the traditional formats and understanding the academia side. But at the same time, the legislation and the private sector is moving at very rapid speed. And so there is that's opportunity, that there's a huge gap there that is just not the workforce development around that still needs to be cultivated, right? As we talk about the fight, there's I have a lot of issues because of the talent, because the talent that I need doesn't exist, right? My industry was started in 2015. I graduated in 2011. My industry, which came online 4 years after I graduated, obviously could not be taught in '07 when I started undergrad, or even when some of my colleagues were studying their master's degrees, maybe, but it's still would have it's still not in practice. So
It's not in practice, but the skill set is there. That doesn't change, right? The periodic element table, that doesn't change, right?
correct. And with the Build Back Better, struggled. A lot of that money was on the education side and to look at the technologies, and incentivizing our institutions to really double down and really get some advancement in that field. And I think, on the trade side, right, and the installations, the mechanics, they the trade groups actually have a great pivot as well into the renewable energy space, um, in the EV market that's about to boom, right? Every single car on the streets are going to be EVs, and so the on the installation side and the
Help me
garages,
out. What's
yeah.
that? EV?
Oh, electric vehicles. Yeah, and so there's from if you're a traditional mechanic and you want to pivot and have that resiliency, right? You need to study up and get the certifications and learn the technology. If you're a traditional electrician, right now you can use that traditional background and learn and do the installation in the garages and also learn and work on the cars. So there's this, the workforce development. You have the Power 52s, you have they do the installation workforce development teaching in the Baltimore area. If you're looking to learn how to install solar panels, you can reach out to Power 52. That's Ray Lewis Group. And then also you have Grid Alternatives. They're also leading the way in the workforce development on the solar side, and also have partnerships with a lot of the HBCUs in the DMV area.
Chris, I got to get this in.
Okay.
I'm all for our HBCUs. All I'm saying is, as this technology is evolving quickly, our HBCUs need to be a little more nimble. Sometimes we stuck on stupid. We don't need to bring the same things that didn't work before to the here and now. Let me tell you why. I heard a local black college president talking about this famous black school now being more diverse. Hold up here. 1 minute you're talking about the empowerment of my people, my community, historically black, and now your script is more about diversity. And then I'm looking, and no disrespect to other people, come to our schools, but it just makes me wonder if HBCUs are chasing the dollars, because you can't go to Congress and say, hey, we've been discriminated against. You get the money, and then the community you're empowering is not your own. See, that's called asinine. But anyway, I digress. Common sense. Hey, look, I done met a lot of smart, dumb people.
I mean, Carter G. Woodson, right? Miseducation of the Negro.
If the education, Carter G said it, if you're not bringing it back home and making it work for home, then what are we really doing? And I'm just saying, I'm all for progress, but it might be time to take another look at some of these models that may no longer be useful. Because you can't go to the government and get money on my behalf, a black man, and then when you get the money, you're saying, oh, well, we want to be more diverse. Oh, homie, what about us?
Yeah.
We didn't already pay the. How can people? And are you hiring?
Yes, we have community meetings that will tell you about all of the virtual remote jobs that were coming online. We are hiring. We have workforce development partnerships that we will, it's wesolar.energy. Join us on our website, our social media, wesolar_energy. Follow us, stay tuned. We have a lot of exciting projects in the pipeline. So yes, and thank you so much for allowing me to share our platform with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Stay
Okay.
tuned for Mr. William Hahn Blue Black USA Morning Show. My name's Donnie Glover. Good morning, world. Thank you, Kristal.
Thank you.
You survived.